G'day Aquarius, Blake here with another video, and today we're going to run through how to breed Golden Wonder Killifish. Kind of a unique fish, maybe you've seen them before, maybe you haven't, but today we're going to cover off everything you're going to need to know to breed them. It's not too difficult, so why don't we just jump straight into the video. Okay, so to get started, this is my Golden Wonder Killifish tank. I do have a Pistogramma Cacatoides at the bottom of this tank, and I think that's a really good thing to highlight about these fish. Basically, spoiler alert, you can see that giant spawning mop in the middle, but because these guys are going to be a spawning mop breeder, it's actually pretty easy to breed them in tanks with other fish, so long as you're not wanting to breed the other fish or the other fish are very much bottom dwellers, such as these Apistos here. This big green yarn mop here is a spawning mop. I do have videos on how to make these. It's relatively simple, and I'll throw the link up in the card above if you are interested. But in terms of actually placement of the spawning mops, I like to have it central. Don't put it up against a side of the aquarium if you can. I find I have a lot more success if the fish can actually swim around it. As you can see, they are quite comfortable being around the spawning mop, that's for sure. So that one there is most likely a female, because as you can see, they're just a little bit more pale, not so much colour, still a fair bit of colour. I mean, if you had nothing else to compare it to, you'd still say it's quite a good looking fish. The male there is front on at the back. We'll wait for him to turn around. And these other fish are actually babies that they've had, so I just started off with a pair. Really easy to sex at the shop. There you go, you can get a bit of a better look at the male. You know, a bit more red finnage, bit denser of a golden colour, and a nice green eye. Well, they all have the colourful eyes, but yeah, very easy to just pick out a pair at the store. You're not going to have any worries about like a sneaker male or anything like that. And you can start with a pair easily and breed out plenty more. So these are sort of fish that I've accidentally spawned a number of times just on plants and things like that when I've moved cuttings. Josh from Acclimate wanted some of these, so I said, sure, give me a few weeks and I'll throw a mop in there and we'll make some more for you. So they're a top dwelling fish. You can see they've got this huge mouth here. So you don't really have to worry about size of foods and all that. But to condition them, I just like to feed high quality floating foods. Freeze-dried bloodworms are a pretty good one, and a general staple that I like to use quite regularly to condition these guys. Some other good ones are like freeze-dried blackworms as well. I like to also put in some baby brine shrimp. The good thing about baby brine shrimp is that they want to swim up to the light. So if you feed it during the hours that you have lights on an aquarium, brine shrimp will all gravitate to the top of the aquarium, and that's where I think the fish see that food source will be available for their babies, and appropriately they'll feel comfortable making some more. But realistically, I don't think they need all that much encouragement. They will pretty much spawn every day. We will check this mop in real time. I haven't checked it yet, but fairly confident there's going to be some eggs in there, and if not, I do have some eggs from yesterday anyway. So let's go straight in and we'll pull out that mop and have a look what we've got. As you can see, I'm sort of shaking the mop to get all this floating plants off, but while we do that, I think it's a good time to note that when keeping these guys, it's a great idea to put floating plants in the aquarium. They are quite skittish and pretty big jumpers, so I find that they're a lot less likely to jump if they've got a lot of these floating plants providing coverage. So certainly it's a good idea to keep them with plenty of floating plants if you can. Okay, so I've got some interesting lighting situation here, but I thought this might be good enough that you'll be able to see what's going on. So when you do pull a spawning mop, generally I find that they lay the eggs right up in the top corner. You're not going to find too many eggs down the bottom section, so don't be too concerned about that area, but you might miss some if you don't get up right close to the top of these spawning mops. So it might have been a spoiler alert. I think you could pretty much see an egg there, so I'll They're not too adhesive, these eggs, so you can quite easily just sort of roll it off with your finger. You don't have to be too gentle either. I have squished the occasional one, but it takes a little bit of accidental force to do so, which I'm being pretty terrible handling this egg, but it seems to be stuck. There we go. So the lighting's going to behave. You can see right there that that's what a killifish egg is going to look like. Pretty big, so it's not too difficult. Like the fry are actually pretty big once they hatch out of it, so you don't even have to worry about feeding super small fry feeds for this. They'll take brine shrimp straight away. So yeah, pretty big eggs from a pretty big fish, I suppose, but that's what we're going to be looking for today. So you pretty much have two options. You can leave the eggs in the spawning mop and just put the whole spawning mop in a separate container to float, or you can comb through the spawning mop and pick out the eggs, which I think I'm going to do today just because then I can monitor them a bit more closely, I should say. So to pick out the eggs, I just get a small dish. This is just actually a lid from a fish food container, and I just get a turkey baster with the aquarium water in it from the aquarium these fish bred in, and I'll just go through the spawning mop gently, take out any eggs that I find and place them in this dish. So I do like to go through a little bit systematically with this. I just take a few strands at a time, sort of get some decent light, ideally better than the one we have right here, but for filming purposes, that's why we're here today. So I just go through 6 or 7 strands like that, and then put them on the other side of my hand so that I know that we've checked through the whole mop. So I just basically keep going through. Can you see that? Keep going through. Move that down there. Flipping over a few little strands at a time, trying to find all the eggs we can. I think yesterday I pulled about a dozen eggs out of this spawning mop, so they're not prolific like some rainbow fish where you'll have like 50 to 80 eggs, but there'll be a decent amount. Another quick tip while we're going is you don't have to feel too rushed. They can actually be out of water for quite a while, so don't feel pressured to rush your searching process through the spawning mop, because yeah, so long as they're damp, they'll be fine. Okay, so there we go. I've got all the eggs in there. Did lose count whilst I was picking them out, but I think there's about 6 or 7. I'll put the real number on the screen now, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with that for one day's work. So let's jump back over to the tanks and we'll talk about what's next. So hopefully you can see them there around the edge of this little light. Yeah, I counted them up. There is 7 in total, so no need to edit that number onto the screen, future Blake. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So the good thing about spawning mop breeders is you can just take the mop again, or if you're even more organized than that, you can make a second mop. And especially if you are not going to separate the eggs from the mop, just have multiple mops and rotate them in and out of your hatching areas. And so yeah, I can just put that straight back in the tank, and they'll go ahead and spawn tomorrow. So yeah, you can make quite a few of these guys fairly effortlessly if you are organized enough. So from that point, what I do is I get my trusty breeder box. So I have this, I think it's an Aqua Manta breeder box, and I like this one because it has a uplift tube. So basically water is constantly flowing through this. Done just one modification so that the babies don't fly at the end, and that's swap out the little grate for a piece of coarse sponge. And yeah, so basically the eggs are in here. It's really going to be difficult to see. I can understand that it's a fairly filthy old breeder box, but that's because it's had lots of use. So maybe I'll these are the eggs from the other day. I might switch over to the macro lens and we'll give that a go. Okay, so in the center here you can see 2 of the eggs from the last batch, which was yesterday. And what you really want to see, there's a 3rd egg just there off to the side as well. What you're looking for is black dots and basically little embryos within the eggs developing, and so that's a really promising sign for this batch of eggs. If you see eggs that have turned white, they're not clear anymore, and they're growing some fungus, then that generally means that they're not fertilized. So maybe just give the parents a few extra goes before they get it right. As you can see here, I like to throw a couple of cherry shrimp just in with a lot of my eggs as kind of like a natural fungi removal. They tend to clean over the eggs, make sure there's no bits of debris and stuff like that collecting on them, which is typically how eggs do get fungus on them. So if you do have some cherry shrimp, drop a few in there. They're not going to eat the eggs, they're just going to clean them, look after them. So I find them to be very helpful that way. So because these eggs are only 1 day apart, I'm just going to put them in as well. So I'll just take the lid off. I've just got the whole lid here. Let's see if we can, there's a number of eggs dropping there. Red was a pretty terrible choice for an egg dish here, but you live and learn. Just giving it a quick check over. So as I mentioned earlier, the fry are going to come out pretty big, so they'll be ready to take baby brine shrimp straight away. I will just turn off the air on this breeder box, and I recommend you do it too if you're going to use this setup when feeding baby brine shrimp, so it all doesn't just go out the edge. But yeah, really easy fish to breed, and one that you shouldn't be daunted by at all. One thing to note, I guess, is I definitely think that you should separate the fry out, because the parents have such big mouths that they're definitely fry eaters. So don't be trying to breed them in the same tank as their parents, or raise them in the same tank as their parents, I should say. So yeah, just to summarize, Golden Wonder Killifish, really nice color, great top waters fish, a fish you can easily breed in tanks with other fish, so long as it's not catfish like corridors and bristlenose, because they are likely to go through and pick a spawning mop clean. Also, you're going to want to separate the eggs. Either they can be left on the spawning mop, or separate it out and put it in a separate breeding container. They will breed pretty much every day, so you can put multiple spawning mops in and rotate them out if you wish. The fry will be ready to accept baby brine shrimp immediately. The fry and the parents are big jumpers, so make sure you put lids on. But other than that, it should be a really fun little breeding project before, if you haven't bred these fish. So there you go, guys. I hope that this was an informative video for you. I hope that it gives you confidence to go ahead and attempt to breed Golden Wonder Killifish. And if you liked the video, please like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.